Yeah, today I picked up this behemoth. Now, you've even gone all out for you people. I took this and I measured it so I could tell you exactly just how big it is. 60 centimeters long, 21 centimeters wide, about 4 millimeters thick. Here's a standard CD jewel case, so you can just get something of an idea. And the thickness. These wires are definitely in the way. We'll get into that in a minute. So you can get an idea. This is one of those cheapo jewel cases. I'm sure most people have seen these and know how thick they are. So you can get something of an idea. Here's a VHS tape. So anyway, where did this come from? For those of you that have been watching my channel for a while, and have been watching the elevator videos other than the ones of the Montgomery Cone, as you can see there, that's a Series 220 hull station, if I didn't mention that already. The building that's got that Schindler with the vandal-resistant, I think they're vandal-resistant HT fixtures. Doesn't really matter. That one, there's 2 elevators in that building, and this came out of the other one. The thing hasn't been in service for probably more than 3 years, but I only can tell you 3 years because I started working there 3 years ago and it was out of service then, so. And there was something wrong at one point with the Schindler. I called it in and asked about this. You know, hey, what's going on with that thing? Is it permanently out of service or what? And they said, oh, it's being renovated. That's weird. Nobody's been working on it. But I kid you not. Here's the funny part of the whole story. A day after I made that phone call, they had the barricades up and they started working on it. They still are. This thing's been sitting out, or had been sitting out, in the hallway for about a week. Finally, I said, you know what, I'm going to just screw up my courage, and I'll ask about it. It's not really something that most people would ever think about grabbing, because, let's face it, most people have got no real use for something like this, and frankly, I don't really have a use for it either, but I can figure a use for it. I actually plan on using the buttons for a project. A far-out project. I don't know when or if I'm ever going to get around to it. But anyway, I asked about it, and it followed me home. Wiring mess and all. Those that are into the elevator hobby, or are actual mechanics, and probably know a whole lot more about this than I do. Those folks that watch my videos that are actual elevator mechanics, or are into the hobby a lot more than I am, probably know a whole lot more about this than I do. Will probably be screaming at their screens when I start talking about this part, but I'm going to say right now, I have no idea exactly what these fixtures are, what brand they are, and what line they are, except for this one, which is obviously a replacement. See, that's one of the characterful things about older elevators, and older things in general. You get to see all the creative repairs that have been made. That is definitely not an assistance button. That is a down arrow. If you push it, it immediately goes down to the ground, to floor, and shuts down. No, not really. Behind there would be a speaker and a microphone. This is a Dewhurst US 89 compact key switch button. I suppose it's not a key switch. These are key switches down here. These things. This was not used, I don't believe. That's US 89 compact. Definitely a replacement. You can see it doesn't even fit in there cleanly. These, I'm not so sure. I'm going to make the guess that these are Dewhurst US 81s. This might not be the original panel. I believe, if I remember correctly, the fixtures, the hull stations, are innovations. I don't think these are innovation fixtures. They might be. Certainly don't have any brands on them. Anyway, let's go ahead and flip this thing over and have a look at the business end of this. Now here is what nobody, other than nosy folks who are looking in scrap piles from renovated elevators and the actual mechanics that work on them, would ever see. Look at that complicated mess. We'll get into all of the business end of this stuff later. Here is the most interesting part. The call for assistance board. You see this dangling off the end of it. Basically, this thing here, you can see those two potentiometers which control volume, is a telephone on a board. It's got a pre-programmed phone number. It may even just be an extension that it dials out. For whatever reason, this is actually a Category 5 Ethernet thing, but I'd assume it serves the same purpose. It's only got two wires going to it anyway. So presumably that goes out to the public switch telephone network, or an internal network. Probably be more so an internal network than anything else. Audio will go through the speaker, and there's an electric condenser microphone somewhere in that mess. Maybe if I lift it up and show it in the light. Yeah, there we go. That thing in there is the microphone. So we'll break it. There's a light on this board somewhere too. I don't know where it went. I already pulled this out because I've shot this video a couple of times. Light there. Usually that is somewhere visible, and that thing is solid when you hit the button, and it flashes when help is on the way. That's what they say. I don't know if you can see it. It's clear plastic. The cone is made out of clear plastic. Yeah, that shiny thing, that is the cone on that speaker. Clear plastic. It's amazing. This is a as you can tell, it's obviously a replacement switch. It looks nothing like any of the other ones. And you can verify that indeed it is a Dewhurst switch. Just like that. Makes it pretty obvious. The majority of that wiring mess actually goes to those four buttons up there. Let's have a look at this mess. So everybody can see all the key switches. I don't believe this one was ever used. And I think that they're all supposed to have this part on them. These ones don't. Not that it really matters. I'll never use them anyway. But this is confusing to me. I suppose that an installer, somebody who actually works with these things, is going to be shaking their head thinking, "You dummy, it's so simple," when they see this part of the video. There are 6 wires. That much is not really all that confusing. There's 1 input, and the other 5 are outputs for the various floors. But how this all works together is rather confusing to me. I'm not sure if these are diodes or resistors. They might just be diodes. I don't think they're resistors, though. I don't see any color codes, unless maybe the printing on them, the little word that's printed on it's supposed to be some kind of a code for what the resistance is. I'm not really entirely sure. I could take a multimeter to it and test it, but I'm not going to do that. Connecting every single one of these side terminals here over to the middle terminal there. All 5 of them are set up that way. And then there's all these various interconnections between the various and sundry parts. For whatever reason, every single one of these has got a connection between the 2 sides. I'm not really sure on this. But these switches, there's nothing in the middle. There really isn't. There isn't like a contact. When you push the switch, it doesn't do anything in the middle. But the middle actually is for light, elevator light, for each button. You can see it's just a little incandescent bulb. I wonder if any of these are actually even any good. That's all that is. You can see straight down into the middle of the button there. Just a connection for that. Which is pretty ingenious. And then I think, but I'm not positive, that both sides are a normally open setup. That is, when the button's not pushed, no current flows from one side to the other. When it is pushed, it does. Although it's entirely possible that one side is normally closed, which is exactly the opposite of what I said. And that's how all this stuff can flow. Let's have a little bit of an example here. So here's a wire that goes out, presumably to the elevator control. And that goes from there ignoring this little connection here that goes from there to here, goes across over to there, then to this, which branches out into two places. Start with this one. Goes here, which also branches up there, but will go through this switch, which goes over here, then goes there and out. So we go back, then go to this, which then goes to that, across, and then out. If we go to this, it goes over here, across, and then out. Then we can keep going back. Then this over here goes across, and then out. Just like that. This one, on the other hand, actually has an output there. So maybe it's entirely possible that the power comes in through this, goes into that, through here, that, well, it would go through this, over here, over there, into all this stuff. These wires are for the lights. I'm not sure where it would get its initial power from, presumably right here, or from right there. We get the initial power from one of these things. But anyway, so that's how all that's set up. Really rather confusing, if you ask me. But again, somebody with a lot more knowledge about this stuff probably shaking their head thinking I'm an idiot. This is the door open button right here. You can see DO over there on the side. This little marking was actually rather funny. It's for the assistance button. But I think you can guess why that's actually funny. It threw me through a loop for a second. I was wondering why that was there. I thought, maybe an installer had a bad day or something. Anyway, door open button just has two wires, 1 and 2. These go out presumably to the elevator control. One's an input, one's an output. This, I don't really profess to understand this one. This is the door close. But it's got 4. One. What do we got here? Oh, one of these goes to it. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 are hooked up, and all 4 go external. So I don't know if one of them is maybe for a door switch? Some kind of a sensor? A lot of people have criticized me for owning multiple camcorders. Well, I think we can all agree, quite a few more than multiple. But a lot of people have criticized me for this. This is exactly the reason why. I have no idea what's wrong with this camcorder. It and the 60-minute tape that I'm using right now to record really have never got along, and I've never understood why. It's exactly the same material as all of my other tapes. It's metal particles, so no clue what the problem is there. Just one of those things, I guess. So I've had to switch cameras, start using this one, because this is the 4th time I've had this camera screw up while I've been trying to record this video. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I think it was something about the complicated mess. Oh, wait a minute. I was going over here at this. I was talking about this thing. How it was connected to 2 different things, presumably anyways. One here and then one on the other side. It's got 2 of these. Don't really know what the deal was with that. Now here's the interesting one. Another one that I don't really profess to understand. Here we've got... what is this? This is the bell button, I believe. And it's only got hooked up on one side. Push those buttons. It goes out to this. Over here. Then we've got... is that just one? No, there's 2. There's another one over here somewhere. These 2 go out to something. And these 2 go out to something on the same thing. On the same button. So I don't know, maybe they both go out to some kind of a bell. You push the X and it rings the bell? I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe it all just goes through the control. That's probably it. All of this just goes to the elevator control. You push the button and the elevator control rings the button. I don't know. But either way, then of course this is for the phone thing. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to describe too, so I'm only using this camera for a little bit of the video. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else really to say about this. So now I just gotta find somewhere to put it while I'm waiting to work on it. It's probably go in the closet. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, especially if you know what kind of fixtures these are, or if you know how this whole circuit works, do feel free to leave them down below. I'll probably map this out and I'll post a drawing in the video description or something. But until then, this is CP666 signing off, and I hope to see you on the next video, which will not be about elevator controls. At least, presumably not, unless I find something else.